Hello, hello. Welcome to the idtalks, a series of webinars that is running from the times of pandemic from 2020. We are very happy to welcome you back on the 11th season of the idtalks, this time on social justice. idtalks is brought to you by Salto Inclusion and Diversity Resource Center. And on the occasion of starting a new season, I would like to ask Maria from Salto Inclusion and Diversity Resource Center to say a few welcoming words.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everybody for being here today with us. As Anna mentioned, it's 11th season of ID Talks, and this time we want to look into the world as it is today and what is going on in the world and what are the things we would rather see changing and how we can use the youth work and power of the youth work to shape the new world that hopefully would be better for all of us. So the topic is social justice and social justice in youth work. We will have as always, five topics that we will discuss this autumn together with you and with our guest speakers. We start with today's session, which is about what it means to be human today in today's world and what kind of theories and humanistic theories we have that do explain better who we are, what we do in this ever-changing world. And then after that, we will take time to look into connection of human rights and youth work, also activism and youth work. Is youth work supposed to be political? Yes or no? And if yes, why? Do we encourage that or not as youth workers? Or how are we engaged and involved in changes? We will also reflect on youth work models that we have and how those relate to social change. And we will also look into what kind of education, non-formal education, we can actually use to explore the also different topics and aspects of social justice. So there is a lot to explore, to look into. We hope you get inspired. We hope we also provoke some questions. I'm sure Maria will do excellent job in provoking questions and new ideas today. So yeah, enjoy the ride. We will be together every second Wednesday, starting from today till 29th of October. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this yet another season of ID Talks together with you. So back to you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for opening the season. And as you said, we are opening this season of social justice with a talk on being human, what it means being human, who is included, who is excluded, how the world around us is shaping today's young people, environment, technology. We will look into some ideals and theories, debate on social dilemmas, and a perfect person, a professional to speak to all of you, us, and to our audience about it is Professor Maria Pisani. She's from University of Malta, an academic activist and youth worker who is also the head of Department of Youth Community and Migration Studies and the chairperson of Platform for Migration at the University of Malta. She calls herself or identifies as a critical intersectional feminist, and her research centers on forced migration as a gendered process through the lived experiences of asylum seekers. I could go more on and on, but I think better to save the time of you and instead of me, pass the word to Maria, and she will tell more about herself, her work, and her talk. Maria, it's my pleasure, honor to pass you the floor.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here. It's not new for me to be in a context like this. I've been a youth worker for 30 years and an academic. I don't actually know how many years, but too many, perhaps. So this is not a new space for me. But the conversation is a bit, and I found myself feeling a little bit nervous, which is unusual for me, but I think it's a healthy thing as well. Today, I'd like to invite you all to rethink, to think again about what it means to be human at a time of technological transformation, an ecological crisis, genocide, and what I perhaps describe as grotesque global and local inequalities. Now, as a youth worker and as an academic, it's not my job to tell young people what to think. But my role is I think my role is, even as a youth worker, to carve out spaces to be creative, to be brave, and to think the unthinkable. Today, I'd like to invite you to think through some of the key concepts, theories, and values that inform our work. To think through them and to perhaps consider new ethical paradigms that might inform youth work practice. So perhaps I might ask you, what and who do we value? And what are the values that shape youth work practice? Now, as Anna described in the brief introduction, as a youth worker, as an academic, and as an activist, I've been working in the field of forced migration for more than 20 years. And for more than 20 years, we have witnessed the violation of fundamental human rights over and over again. In the last 10 years alone, more than 20,000 people have lost their lives just in the Mediterranean Sea. And it was during COVID, actually it had been coming a while in truth, but I think in COVID, and this is something that we don't talk about, and I think we need to talk about it a little bit more, I burnt out. I can remember a very particular moment where I received a phone call. There was a whole series of events, but there was one particular moment where I received a phone call telling me that there was a boat of asylum seekers outside Maltese shores, and the government had decided to keep them out there and to place them on a boat and not allow them access to protection. And they were there for weeks, actually. And it was at this precise moment, I remember even where I was standing, I was outside at the time, where I just thought, whatever it is that we're trying to do isn't working. And I needed new ideas. I needed new methodologies. I needed new ways of thinking because it all felt so incredibly dark. And to be honest, it doesn't really feel any better. If anything, I think when I look outside that window, it can look pretty damn bleak at times. But hope is a political act. And I think it's so important that we grasp onto hope and start to think again. And that doesn't mean throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but to really reflect on what we stand for and how we go about our work. I think for too long, the human species, other more than human beings, and our planet has been seen purely as a source for exploitation, to maximize profit. Everything is instrumentalized. So I don't think it's just me who was feeling a level of exhaustion. I think many of us feel this degree of exhaustion, including the planet. So today, I'm going to be drawing on critical post-human feminists and their ideas to come up with some new ideas, and I want to share them with you. These are some of the questions that I'm going to be asking. What new concepts and ideas do we need to make sense of the world? How might we understand social justice within a new ethical paradigm? What of ecological justice, technological justice, and how are these concepts and worlds enmeshed? What are we becoming? And what will we be leaving behind? And perhaps at this moment, we need to remind ourselves that ultimately we are all just passing through. So what are the values that will shape our ideas and our practices as youth workers and also as human beings? And I'm going to do this by telling you a story. And it's a tale of two Sophias. I'll start with baby Sophia. It's not a metaphor. This tale happened. This is baby Sophia, who was born in 2015 in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, the reason why baby Sophia, or specifically her mother, was traveling on a dinghy in the Mediterranean Sea was because she was denied the possibility of traveling in a safe and legal way. So baby Sophia's mum got on a dinghy in an effort to find security in another home. Operation Sophia, which some of you might be familiar with the term, was the search and rescue and border control operation set up by Frontex. So Operation Sophia is actually named after baby Sophia. Had baby Sophia landed in Malta, she didn't. She landed in a different Mediterranean country. But had she landed in Malta, the chances are that her mum would have been granted subsidiary protection. Now, different EU countries have different rules when it comes to accessing citizenship. Beneficiaries of subsidiary protection in Malta have no legal route to citizenship. So had she landed here, baby Sophia today would be 10 years of age with no possibility of accessing citizenship in Malta. So this is baby Sophia. This is Sophia, the cyborg. Again, not a metaphor. This is a real story. And in 2018, Sophia the cyborg came to Malta. Sophia the cyborg travels the world on planes. She isn't forced to travel on a dinghy. Sophia the cyborg has citizenship in Saudi Arabia. And when she came to Malta and she had amazing media coverage, everyone wanted to meet Sophia the cyborg. Our parliamentary secretary at the time, Sylvia Schembri, said it was time for Malta to explore a pilot project to create a citizenship test for AI robots. And I'm not going to lie, I did have a what the fuck moment. What if baby Sophia had been a cyborg? Maybe she'd be granted citizenship too. It raises so many questions. I know I'm not going to be addressing human rights directly in the talk today, but it raises so many questions about access to human rights, what it means to be human, and who qualifies as being human in the first place. Apparently, not everybody. Now, I'll digress slightly because there's more to my story. In 2019, and it was about this time of the year actually, it was during the summer, I was invited to Kakuma camp, a refugee camp in Kenya. And I had an amazing time meeting young people who have spent the majority of their lives in Kakuma. They are living in Kakuma because they're not allowed to leave. We call it the externalization of borders. So Europe and other countries, the European Union and other countries around the world fund these camps to ensure that those refugees remain there and don't come to us. I sat on a small plane, it was a UN plane outside the refugee camp. And we actually had a delay because there was a cow on the runway. So I was scrolling through my social media on my phone. I didn't actually have access to Wi-Fi, so I was just on a loop seeing the same things that I'd accessed before. And there was a fight between, some of you might remember it, it was Twitter in those days, between Macron in France and Bolsonaro, arguing about the fires in Brazil. And Macron was arguing and accusing Bolsonaro of not protecting the lungs of the planet. And I couldn't help but think, well, that's fascinating. All of a sudden, borders don't matter that much. It's one planet. So these borders are, well, they don't mean the same to everybody, clearly. And our planet is burning. Capitalism, the economic paradigm that has defined our times, has instrumentalized both human and non-human life, wherein everyone and everything is reduced to a resource for profit, depleting the planet and exacerbating inequalities. The Anthropocene. The human species has become a geological force in its own right, and it is leading to not just the planet's destruction, but the destruction of the species. In fact, you might argue that the planet would thrive without us. So, ideas matter. And I would argue that it's ideas that got us into this mess in the first place. I want to take you back to the Vitruvian man, the exceptional man, the exceptional human with a capital H, placed at the center of everything. Rich and privileged, white, European, able-bodied man that has defined our thinking for centuries. Now, of course, ideas have evolved since then, but I would argue that these ideas that have continued over centuries, calling for an independent, autonomous, rational human being that has produced hierarchies and toxic binaries that continue to destroy. Man over planet, man over woman, man over machine. Problematic binaries, problematic hierarchies. First, the notion that the human species is exceptional and above all else. And within this human species, some human beings are more valuable than others. Human exceptionalism. Now, this is when I'm going to bring in critical feminist new materialist thought. Are we that exceptional? We're all made of the same stuff, the same matter. Whether you're baby Sophia, Sophia the cyborg, Donald Trump, me, you, all made of the same stuff. Now, matter reproduces itself in the most complex, unique, and beautiful ways. That's what makes us all special. But ultimately, we're made of the same stuff. It's not mind over matter. Anyone who's gone through stress will tell you how the body keeps score. The mind and matter is enmeshed. We're made of the same substance, and we need other stuff to exist. We're not exceptional. We are codependent, and we are entangled. Now, I can remember 30 years ago when I started youth work as a degree, I was told that the aim of youth work was to create spaces where young people could become independent and autonomous. And I repeated that over and over again. Ideas matter. This is not a metaphor. We are made of the same stuff. We are entangled, and we are codependent. I affect the world, I shape the world, and I am affected by and shaped by the world. My dreams, the dreams that I dream in Malta, might be the source of nightmares for somebody else on the other side of the world. So today, I'm inviting you to think about our lives, the planet we share in and of the world, and youth work practice, to think about it from a different lens, a new materialist lens, enmeshed, no binaries, no hierarchies. Now, of course, I'm not saying that those hierarchies and binaries don't exist in terms of our discourse and how they affect lives. But if we were to imagine and understand ourselves as actually made of the same stuff, not exceptional, can we then perhaps understand how we are entangled and enmeshed? And what are the implications for youth work practice? Today, in youth work, we speak about the digital world, but is it really a separate world? Today, many academics are speaking about the post-digital. We are enmeshed with technology. I'm already a cyborg. This is measuring my heart rate. It's the first thing I do when I wake up, is check how many hours I slept. My smartphone is never more than 5 inches away from my body. HRT, I'm a menopausal woman. I thank the goddess for the technology of HRT that has prevented me from burning up this whole room that I'm in. Pacemakers, artificial limbs. Technology is a part of our lives. We are already enmeshed. A recognition of our codependency and our materiality. So is technology something that we should fear in and of itself? A new materialist perspective, we're all made of the same stuff, calls for a leveling of the playing field. Is it man over machine? Should we be afraid of AI? Well, let me pose this. Should we be more afraid of artificial intelligence than baby Sophia should be afraid of people who look like me? Ultimately, it's not about the human being, and it's not about the cyborg. It's about the values that shape and frame these relationships. It is the ethical paradigm. We exist, we suffer, we feel, and we thrive in a relational way. And I think people like baby Sophia know this. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be questioning and challenging AI. We need to start thinking about the ethical values that frame these relationships. Claude, and apparently this new technology, I was reading a report a couple of weeks ago, where Claude was programmed in a certain way. And if I understood correctly, and I think I did, it used blackmail to try and convince members of staff to act in a particular way. So AI potentially is dangerous. Human beings, we know, can be dangerous. So again, what are the values that shape these relationships? And these relationships are happening now. It's not a question for tomorrow. These are questions for today. They go to the heart of what it means. And you started out by saying, should youth work be political? My answer would be absolutely. What are the questions we need to be asking? To what degree are we engaging in these processes? And again, what are the values that we feel should be shaping and framing these relationships? Are we a part of the conversation? At the end of the last academic year, I was assessing students. I don't teach youth work and digital worlds, but I was called in to assess some presentations with a lecturer, and the presentations were on young people and artificial intelligence and the social media. And many of the students in their presentations spoke about the importance of therapy bots. And I was actually quite surprised by this. I wasn't expecting it. I had a boomer moment. My point is this. There is no digital world. The digital world is already enmeshed. This is the post-digital. So what are the implications for the human species? What are our relationship with the more than human? And what are the implications for youth work practice? I am suggesting this. How can we dismantle hierarchies, recognize that we're made of the same stuff, level the playing field, whilst also bearing witness to historical and ongoing violence? What are the values that are going to shape these relationships? I think in leveling the playing field, we may have a humbling respect for our materiality. Stop thinking of ourselves as exceptionals and recognize our relationships with other matter and this codependency. What are we becoming? And what will we leave behind? We are in and of the cosmos. You and me are matter, special, but not special. Matter that is enmeshed, entangled, and codependent is actually very simple. So what are the values that will shape our ideas as youth workers and how we act in and of the world? And might a relational ethics that recognizes that we are all made of the same stuff generate a more just and compassionate world. Ideas that recognize complexity, moving beyond binaries. Ideas really matter. And as youth workers, it is not our job to tell young people what to think. But it is an opportunity to create spaces to think the unthinkable. And to ask each and every one of us, what are the values that frame our ideas? And what are the values that frame our relationship with other humans and more than human beings? I'm calling for a relational ethics, considering humans, all humans, the animal world, the plant world, the planet, and technology. Leveling the playing field, dismantling hierarchies, and always holding on to what I believe is fundamental, that hope is and will always be a political act.
So we have these two questions. First one coming from Görkem. He's asking you, Maria, when hierarchies are called problematic, how can we still build fair structures and society? So how to build structures without problematic hierarchies, or if hierarchies are problematic, how we build structures and societies, fair structures and societies.
Okay, so two questions, if I understood correctly. If hierarchies are problematic, how are we to dismantle those hierarchies? Is that the second question?
So it's one question, basically. It says, when hierarchies are called problematic, because I guess that's how you referred to hierarchies in the presentation.
Yes,
How
yes.
can we still build fair structures in society?
Okay, I mean, I can only speak from I believe that hierarchies are problematic. I believe that if we are just going to look at the human species, I don't think any human being should be valued over another human being. And if I was to speak now as a youth worker, I think, and this goes also to my burnout, really. So I definitely don't have the answer because I repeat, what we're doing isn't working. But when we worked exclusively on human rights, we got nowhere, essentially. I think perhaps what I'm saying is that, and this certainly isn't me saying that we shouldn't be focusing on human rights, as long as human beings are treated unequally, the only thing that we can do to certain degrees is called for this recognition that all human beings are born equal, or at least should be in principle. And that's where I feel that youth work has an incredibly important role in being political. When I say being political, first of all, creating spaces for discussion and dialogue and conversations, uncomfortable conversations, where there is disagreement, where there are different perspectives, where different people with different situated realities can come forward and, based on their own perspective, to say, this is where I disagree. But then my question would still be, okay, but what are the values that are shaping this conversation? Do we agree on the values? Do we share the same values? When I talk about political youth work beyond the discussion, then I also call for action. And that action can be diverse. And I'm sure many of you have engaged in different kinds of actions over the years. Perhaps on a personal level, all of my work has almost exclusively focused on asylum seekers and refugees. Today, I see much more scope to be working with other NGOs covering different issues that might on the surface seem not linked, but are fundamentally linked. And so, for example, if we're speaking of eco-justice, of course, that is intrinsically linked with the rights of asylum seekers and refugees. And shaping these conversations in such a way that acknowledges these relationships, I think, is fundamental.
So, Maria, the question is, if technology and the environment are reshaping what it means to be human for young people today, how do we make sure that being human in youth work practices doesn't become defined by those with access and privilege, but includes those who are most excluded from these systems? What is your take on it? I imagine there's no recipe.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have the answer, but what I can say is that the question was posed as a possibility, but it's a reality. This is already happening. Decisions are being taken by persons who hold more power. But decisions about our lives and about the future of the planet and more than human beings are already being taken. No, so my question really, and again, that's why I told you I'm a bit nervous posing this, because I realized that it was difficult enough when I used to just speak about human rights or social justice. I'm not just talking about social justice today. I'm talking about all forms of justice, and it's heavy, it's intense. These are very complex issues. But I don't think we should avoid the complexity. That is our task. That is our reality. And I don't have the answers. That's, I think, why we're meeting today, to start, but I do invite you to start thinking through it.
In your group, did you discuss something when you went to your room? What was this particular focus maybe of your discussion?
About what was to be human in these days. Also, we spoke. I started the conversation about migrations because of the tale of the two Sophias. I thought migration was an important subject here, more or less. These two topics. Well, I suppose we start the reflection on how to be human these days, maybe because the artificial intelligence is in the field now, it's starting now, and I suppose our society. And so far, artificial intelligence is has a very basic development. But let's think in 5, 10, 20 years in the future, so that will be an important subject to think. What is to be natural intelligence natural being with intelligence, natural intelligence, and what will be a being, artificial being with artificial intelligence, and maybe with consciousness. I don't know. Maybe this is the why we are reflecting about what is it to be human these days, because otherwise I don't imagine 50 years ago people making this question themselves. So human was, or human is what is to be a human is related to human rights, could be another side of the question. Human rights could be, I don't know. I'm just asking you and making my reflections.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And you were saying there is probably nothing to share. I think that was quite interesting. Let's hear from other groups as well. Please, Tatevik.
Thank you. And again, hello everyone. I'm Tatevik from Armenia. We talked in our group about hierarchy, and continuing that topic, we discussed whether humanity really needs it, or if people can self-organize. And it was quite an interesting approach, and we also had different perspectives on it. And some thought that hierarchy is indeed necessary, because without it, there would be a chaos. and some societies are not yet ready for self-organization. But others in our group, however, believed that hierarchical structure creates a system where one person power influence the others, and it's some kind of unfair. This is shortly about what we were discussing in our group. Thank you.
Maria, you already have these two interesting reflections from the groups maybe you want to refer to. And I also would like to remind that we have another one that Rafa left before we went to the break about dismantling hierarchies when the power is in the hands of the power of dismantling the hierarchies is actually in the hands who benefit these hierarchies the most. Yeah. So Maria, over to you, and let's see if then we have time, we can ask our participants to share more reflections.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. I think Raul's reflections were very useful, actually. Let me start. I was saying in the break, I was reading through the chat, and I noted that it's more than a tale of two Sophias. There's at least another two Sophias on the group as well that I saw. I originally wanted to call it a tale of three Sophias, and then I opted for it two. But I want to remind you all that Sophia means wisdom, philosophia. And I think that is what I'm inviting today. If you ask me, how do we dismantle hierarchies? I don't know. I mean, I've spent the last 20 years trying to dismantle hierarchies in relation to women's rights, LGBTIQ, and certainly asylum seekers and issues around race, belonging, and minority ethnic groups. So I don't think I have the answers to that. The question perhaps what I'm inviting is, rather than asking what are the answers, I'm asking what are the questions? And if we understand our world as being enmeshed and entangled and all of the same stuff, might that invite new questions, new ways of thinking about the world? But I'm not sure I can give you the answers in terms of how to dismantle hierarchies or how to stop climate change. But if I was to think about artificial intelligence, I think that automatically invites a question about human rights. When does the cyborg become sentient? I don't think, the only thing I disagreed with you, Raul, was when you said these are questions for perhaps, I think these are questions for now. These are questions for yesterday. What will it mean? When artificial intelligence becomes sentient, what does that mean then? What does it mean to be human? And what is our relationship with artificial intelligence? And I think, another issue that keeps coming up is that we're looking at in the near future, the end of economically productive work. Well, I think that has many questions for youth work. What are the implications for young people? We need to start imagining such a future in order to be able to act on that future. Self-organizing. As soon as you said it, I automatically thought, well, we need technology to self-organize today. I'm already linking it immediately to technology. I've just come back from a Camino, which I would encourage anybody to do it, where I thought I would be totally unplugged and walking, and I wasn't. I was plugged in. I mean, I was totally enjoying it and immersed in that experience, but also taking photos, following my map on my Camino app. So everything is connected, not binaries. When we use binaries, I think we simplify the world. But the world is not black and white. The world is complex. So I'm inviting this, a way of thinking through and embracing and acknowledging this complexity. Binaries are lazy thinking. complexity, I think, is a way of not just thinking about the world, but also how that shapes our ideas in terms of actions. And in terms of hierarchies and those who hold power, I mean, we don't really, I think, can we at least be honest with ourselves? And we don't live in democracies, really. I mean, okay, it's a form of democracy, but to what degree are we really taking decisions on a day-to-day basis about our lives? It is so easy to put that off and ask somebody else to take a decision for us every 4 years, and to not reflect on the money that is generated in this process and who benefits. At least, and I have massive issues with democracy, to be honest, particularly given that it seems to me that citizenship rights trump human rights, and given that baby Sophia has no right to participate in this democratic process, but Sophia the cyborg, and I saw somebody is here from Saudi Arabia, she got citizenship in 2017. So I'm problematizing democracy whilst also saying I think the democratized process is our best bet, but true representation and true investment, without, again, should I say, offering any answers, because I don't claim to have any.
Well, we have some interesting reflections here from Villa. You might also want to have a look at it. I will read it because I think it's the best. So I would like to share my views as an immigrant. Social justice is about more than just fair treatment. It's about fundamental ability to rebuild a life with dignity and opportunity in a new country. It encompasses a range of issues from legal protection to social and economic inclusion. This is one of Villa's reflections, and another one is about technology. I imagine while you were addressing this comment of Raoul as well. As for artificial intelligence, I'm not sure all of the concern that we are nurturing daily basis. I think the tech is the future, and now we are shaping it how it will be. And how we shape it, it will be. So it will be interesting.
Can I say, in terms of Villa's comment, I think that's exactly my point. People say, well, artificial intelligence is a tool, and it is a tool, like a knife. You can use it to kill somebody, and you can use it to cut bread. My question is, what are the values that shape that relationship with AI? AI is already making life and death decisions on our behalf, in terms of the military, in surgery. What is our relationship with AI, and what do we want it to look like? A migrant stops being well, I mean, I'm a returned migrant. I'm Maltese, but I was born in Germany and spent a lot of time in England before I came back. So I think there is fluidity in that identity. But Via, again, like baby Sophia, she speaks about the fundamental ability to rebuild a life with dignity and opportunity in a new country. It encompasses a range of issues from legal protection to social and economic inclusion. A lot of my work has focused specifically, and again, these are all connected, but a lot of my work has focused on the legal protections, which almost defines your humanity. I argue that if refugees had votes, they wouldn't be left drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. So citizenship for me is almost this acknowledgement of a person's humanity that allows them the possibility to be able to engage as an equal. And then we can also, I'm a critical intersectional feminist, so I would also then look at the complexity that makes up the individual, but addressing citizenship and access to rights with all of the issues that I've mentioned otherwise beforehand in terms of democracy is one question I would argue that we should be having. Let me just look at Malta. 30%, Mary Rose is in the group. She might want to Google it for me quickly to make sure I've got my statistics right. But I believe at the moment in Malta, 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 members of our population are not Maltese citizens. We've had a very high immigration rate, not just across the Mediterranean Sea, but people coming from all across the world. I believe it's 1 in 3, but let me say 25%, and perhaps 1 in 3 workers. So what are the implications there for democracy? Again, not a question for tomorrow. This is a question for yesterday. What does it mean to be human? And yes, democracy definitely needs to be fixed by more than education. But as a youth worker, that's where I'll start. But we're not going to save the world on our own.
And perhaps it's too much responsibility only on the shoulders of youth work, because
Absolutely.
very often we look at it as the remedy for all kinds of illness, which, I mean, even if equipped, a single person as a youth worker is very difficult to.
I'm sorry. May I say something about
Of course,
identity?
Dila.
My name is Olsa, and as I said before, I'm Albanian living in France. And I think shaping the identity, the new identity, it's a long, long and harsh process. And the identity is what I recognize to myself and what the others recognize to me. The others, I mean the society, the members of society, the community, and above all, the authorities. You know what I mean? Recognizing my identity. I mean being accepted from the society as a new citizen with all the rights in the society.
So I feel you, not just hear you. I think identity, when I said more than once, what are we becoming? Because I think we are constantly evolving. We are never complete. But when I say dismantle binaries, I'm pointing as another example of a problematic and violent binary is the citizen, non-citizen, the citizen and the migrant. This for me is a problematic binary. You either have full access to rights or you don't. You're either fully human or you're not. So these are the examples that I'm giving from the real world. Can we imagine a different space where everybody has the same access to rights?
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. I just wanted to emphasize the importance of accepting the new identity. Because the identity is what we recognize to ourselves and what the others accept.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think
Thank you.
this discussion is starting in our chat, which I think is an indicator of a fabulous ID talk and the great start of the season. I would just maybe say quickly that, well, regarding resources, maybe we can ask you, Maria, to include some references at the end of the article that we will.
Yes, I did. In the passage that I gave, but I can tell you that I read, I read a lot. But the first person that I started reading when I started to think around these ideas was Rosie Braidotti. I also like Donna Haraway. Karen Barad.
So at least 3 names to start with.
Yes, I'm not sure about the spelling of some of them, but you will find them. That's 3 examples. I've also published some work around this myself as well, A Tale of Two Sophias that was published in the Youth Journal. And there was another question.
I think we need to start wrapping up, but we will share with our audience later on the article about the speech with some references. So I think also this is something that can be taken forward. Now I would like to ask if Olaja is ready. We first share, this is always happening in the back of the screen. Olaja is carefully putting together the ideas in graphic. Very exciting moment, I think, to share those with the audience. And then we come back to close the ID talk of today. Olaja, please.
Thank you so much. So here we go once again. I should be sharing my screen now. You should be seeing it, hopefully.
It came.
Yeah, super. So these are some visual nuggets of all this big reflection. I don't have many facts to share today as a summary because I think it's a lot to think about. Personally, I really enjoyed the dilemmas, right? And this invitation to really think where we stand. And also from a personal point of view, was really interesting to position myself and say, okay, yeah, the tale of two Sophias, right? I think it's a brilliant resource to not let us ourselves be carried away by technology, by either all the positive aspects of it or all the negativity, depending how you see it, but also to step back and say, all right, where are we heading? As you mentioned, Maria, who are we becoming? And then not maybe us from our individual perspective, but us as a collective, as human beings. So thank you so much. I think it was really interesting for me to take notes of all of these reflections. And I hope that, we will spend some more hours in the back of our heads, thinking about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Olaja. Thank you so much. You never cease to surprise us and to impress us. I don't know how your brain works, really. I really want a peek into your brain. Maria, now that we are coming to the end of today's talk, maybe you want to ask more questions or give some final questions for us to take those and go to our lives with a little bit more consciousness.
I would like to thank Elijah. Actually, the way you captured that was, I said, let's capture the complexity, and you really did. My goodness, thank you so much. Amazing. No, I have nothing to add really, beyond thanking everybody and repeating my invitation to think new ideas, and to have uncomfortable conversations, not comfortable conversations, uncomfortable conversations about what we're becoming and how we want to shape those relationships.
Thank you very much. And what I need to say now is that, after today's talk, I feel more ready for the rest of the season on social justice. It seems we will have even more questions provoked by you for the rest of our speakers. So good luck to them with that. And thank you very much, Maria. It's been really inspirational, I think very insightful, and also self-critical in a way. I think it gave a lot of moments when we are thinking about ourselves and where we are in this whole complexity, where we are heading. So thank you very much for that. And to you, our darling audience, we meet each other in 2 weeks on Wednesday, the 17th at 1 p.m. Central European Time. And next time we meet, we are going to talk about social justice and youth work with our speaker from Italy. So looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.